Does a $5,000 ticket give you the right to treat people like trash? Victoria Vanderbilt thought so. Standing in the aisle of a Boeing 747 on Christmas Eve, she looked at the young black woman sitting in seat 1A, a woman wearing a faded hoodie and headphones, and decided that she didn't belong. Victoria screamed, humiliated, and demanded the girl be removed by security. She wanted a show of power. She got one. But she didn't realize that the girl she was spitting on wasn't just a passenger. She was the one who signed the pilot's paycheck. Watch until the end to see the moment Victoria's face freezes when the captain drops the ultimate truth bomb. You do not want to miss this karma. The snow was coming down hard over John F. Kennedy International Airport, blanketing the tarmac in a sheet of white that threatened to delay every flight out of New York. Inside Terminal 4, the air was thick with the frantic energy of Christmas Eve. People were rushing, children were crying, and the smell of cinnamon pretzels mixed with expensive perfume. In the exclusive Aurora Airlines Diamond Lounge, however, the chaos was muffled by thick glass walls and soft jazz. This was a sanctuary for the elite, the CEOs, the celebrities, and the old money families flying to London for the holidays. Maya Sterling sat in a corner armchair far away from the buffet and the bar. To the casual observer, Maya looked like she had gotten lost on her way to the economy gate. She was 26 years old, with her hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing a pair of grey sweatpants and an oversized vintage university hoodie that had seen better days. She was curled up with a beaten-up leather journal, scribbling notes with a cheap ballpoint pen. She looked tired, but Maya wasn't just tired. She was exhausted. She had spent the last 6 months orchestrating a hostile takeover defense of her late father's company, Aurora Airlines. She had fought board members, navigated legal loopholes, and barely slept. Today was supposed to be her victory lap, a quiet flight home to London to visit her father's grave. She didn't want to be the CEO today. She just wanted to be Maya. Excuse me, is there a reason why the service in here is moving at a glacial pace? The shrill voice cut through the quiet hum of the lounge like a serrated knife. Maya looked up. Standing at the marble coffee bar was a woman who radiated wealth and malice in equal measure. Victoria Vanderbilt was in her mid-40s, dressed in a white cashmere coat that probably cost more than a mid-sized sedan. Her blonde hair was sprayed into an immovable helmet of perfection, and her fingers adorned with diamonds the size of grapes were drumming impatiently on the counter. The young barista, a boy named Leo, who couldn't have been more than 19, looked terrified. "I'm sorry, Miss Vanderbilt. The espresso machine is acting up and I don't care about your machine," Victoria snapped, slamming her hand down. "I am a Diamond Medallion member. My family has been flying this airline since before you were born. I asked for a soy latte, extra foam, exactly 140 degrees 10 minutes ago. I'm making it right now, Mom." Leo stammered, his hands shaking as he poured the milk. Maya watched her brow furrowing. She hated this. She hated how people with a little bit of money thought it gave them a license to dehumanize service workers. She closed her journal and stood up, stretching her legs. As Leo went to hand Victoria the cup, the shaking of his hands caused a tiny splash of hot coffee to spill over the rim. A few drops landed on the pristine white counter. Not a drop touched Victoria's coat, but she recoiled as if he had thrown acid at her. "You incompetent idiot!" Victoria screeched. She swiped her hand out, knocking the cup from Leo's hand. The cup hit the floor with a wet smack, exploding hot coffee all over Leo's apron and shoes. The lounge went deadly silent. "Look what you made me do!" Victoria yelled, not even glancing at the mess she had created. "Now the smell of cheap coffee is in my sinuses. Someone get a manager. I want this boy fired immediately." Leo looked like he was about to cry. He grabbed a rag and bent down to wipe the floor. "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." "Stop," a calm voice said. Maya stepped between Victoria and the kneeling boy. She didn't look at Victoria, she looked at Leo. She crouched down, ignoring the coffee seeping toward her sneakers. "Leo, leave it. You don't need to clean that up right now." "Are you burned?" Leo looked up, eyes wide. "No, miss. I'm okay, but I need to clean." "Stand up," Maya said gently, offering him a hand. "Excuse me." Victoria's voice dropped an octave, dripping with venom. She turned her glare onto Maya. "Who do you think you are? The janitor's daughter, step aside. This incompetence needs to be punished." Maya stood to her full height. She wasn't tall, but she held herself with a posture that her father had taught her, shoulders back, chin up. She turned to face Victoria. "He made a mistake," Maya said, her voice even. "You made a mess. There's a difference. Accidents happen. Cruelty is a choice." Victoria laughed, a harsh, barking sound. She looked Maya up and down, her eyes lingering on the grey sweatpants and the fraying cuffs of the hoodie. "Oh, this is rich. A charity case lecturing me on behavior. Listen to me, you little street urchin. I don't know how you snuck into this lounge, probably used a stolen pass, or you're waiting for your shift to scrub the toilets. But do not speak to me. I am Victoria Vanderbilt. My husband owns half of Wall Street." "And that gives you the right to abuse a 19-year-old on Christmas Eve?" Maya asked. "It gives me the right to demand excellence," Victoria hissed. She stepped closer, invading Maya's personal space. "Now get out of my face before I have security drag you out, along with this incompetent barista." Maya stared at her for a long moment. She could have ended it right then. She could have pulled out her black titanium card, the one with the gold aurora crest that identified her as the owner and chairman of the board. She could have had Victoria banned from the flight instantly. But Maya was tired. And more than that, she wanted to see just how far this woman would go. She wanted to see the character of the person sitting in her first-class cabin. "Be careful, Miss Vanderbilt," Maya said softly. "The world is smaller than you think, and you never know who you're talking to." Victoria sneered. "I know exactly who I'm talking to. A nobody." She turned her back on Maya and snapped her fingers at another staff member. "You get me a manager. Now." Maya sighed, gave Leo a reassuring nod and walked back to her seat. She picked up her phone and sent a quick text to the head of in-flight services. Text to Marcus Chief Purser. "Boarding soon. Keep an eye on seat 1B. She's going to be a handful. Let's handle it by the book for now." The reply came instantly. Text from Marcus. "Copy that, Ms. Sterling. We're ready for you in 1A. Sorry about the delay." Maya put her phone away. The storm outside was raging, but the storm inside the plane was just beginning. The boarding announcement for Flight 818 to London Heathrow came over the speakers crisp and professional. "We are now inviting our first-class passengers and Diamond Medallion members to board at Gate B12. Victoria Vanderbilt was the first one at the podium. She had refreshed her lipstick, adjusted her coat, and wore a look of supreme self-importance. She scanned her boarding pass with an aggressive beep and swept down the jet bridge without acknowledging the gate agent. Behind her, Maya gathered her backpack. She waited until the initial rush of suit-wearing businessmen had passed before she approached the gate. "Happy holidays, Ms. Sterling," the gate agent whispered, with a knowing smile glancing at her screen, which flashed a special Owner VVIP tag that was invisible to the public-facing screen. "Merry Christmas, Sarah." Maya smiled back, winking. "Just a normal passenger today." "Shh." Sarah nodded. "Understood. Have a safe flight." Maya walked down the jet bridge. The cold air from the gap between the bridge and the fuselage nipped at her face. As she stepped onto the plane, the warmth of the cabin hit her, along with the scent of fresh pine, a special touch Aurora Airlines added during the holidays. The first-class cabin was the jewel of the fleet. It featured only 8 private suites, arranged in a 1-2-1 configuration. Each suite had a sliding door, a lie-flat bed, and a 30-inch entertainment screen. It was the epitome of luxury. Maya's seat was 1A, the prime spot on the left side of the plane, offering the most privacy. As she walked down the aisle, she saw Victoria settling into seat 1B. 1B was directly across the aisle from 1A. Victoria was already making a fuss, demanding that the flight attendant take her coat immediately and complaining that the champagne wasn't chilled enough. Maya kept her head down and slipped into suite 1A. She tossed her backpack into the overhead bin and sat down, pulling her legs up and getting comfortable. She put her noise-cancelling headphones around her neck, ready to tune out the world. "Excuse me." The voice came from across the aisle. Maya didn't react immediately. "Hey, you hoodie girl." Maya turned her head slowly. Victoria was leaning out of her suite, staring at Maya with a look of absolute incredulity. "Are you talking to me?" Maya asked. "Yes, I'm talking to you," Victoria snapped. "What do you think you are doing?" "I'm sitting in my seat," Maya replied calmly. Victoria scoffed, looking around to see if anyone else was witnessing this absurdity. "Your seat." "This is first class, honey. The crew rest area is in the back near the toilets. Or did you get confused and turn left instead of right? I'm in seat 1A, Maya said, pointing to the placard on her suite door. My boarding pass says 1A. Victoria unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up, towering over the seated Maya. Don't lie to me. I know how this works. Airlines upgrade people sometimes when economy is full, but they don't put people like you in 1A. That seat is reserved for diplomats, CEOs, and legitimate VIPs, not whatever you are. Ms. Vanderbilt, please sit down. A male voice cut in. It was Marcus, the chief purser. He was a tall man with impeccable posture and a sharp uniform. He had worked with Maya's father for 20 years and had known Maya since she was a child. He was one of the few people on board who knew exactly who she was. Victoria spun around to face him. Ah, finally. A flight attendant. You need to remove this person. She's clearly in the wrong seat, and quite frankly, her appearance is disturbing the ambiance of the cabin. I paid $5,000 for this ticket, and I didn't pay to sit across from a vagrant. Marcus kept his face perfectly neutral, though Maya could see a muscle twitching in his jaw. Mom, I checked this passenger's boarding pass myself. She is in her assigned seat. Then there's been a mistake in your system. Victoria insisted, her voice rising in volume. Other passengers in the cabin, a tech mogul in 2A and a famous actress in 2K, were starting to watch, peering over their privacy dividers. There is no mistake, Marcus said firmly. Please take your seat so we can finish boarding. Victoria's face turned a shade of crimson. She wasn't used to being told no. She looked at Maya, who had opened her journal again and was ignoring her. The disrespect was palpable. I see what this is, Victoria spat. Affirmative action. Boarding is that you're letting her sit here for diversity points. The cabin went silent. The racism wasn't even veiled anymore. It was out in the open, ugly and raw. Maya looked up from her book. Her eyes were cold. You should sit down, Victoria. You're embarrassing yourself. Don't you dare tell me what to do, Victoria shrieked. I know the game. You probably used miles, or you're an employee using a buddy pass. Well, I am a revenue customer. I pay cash. That makes me more important than you, and I want that seat. You want my seat? Maya asked, raising an eyebrow. Why 1B is identical to 1A? Because 1A is the primary seat, Victoria yelled. It's the prestige seat, and I don't want to have to look at your tacky clothes for 7 hours. I want you moved to economy where you belong. If you can't afford a proper coat, you certainly can't afford to be here. Victoria turned back to Marcus. Here is what is going to happen. You are going to move her to the back. If you don't, I will call your corporate office right now. I know people. I can have your job. I can have this girl banned. Marcus looked at Maya, waiting for a signal. Maya gave a barely perceptible shake of her head. Not yet. Miss Vanderbilt, Marcus said, his voice dropping to a steely warning tone. We are about to close the doors. You have 2 choices. Sit in 1B and be quiet or deplane. This is your final warning. Victoria gasped. She looked around the cabin, seeking allies. Can you believe this? She asked the tech mogul in 2A. They are threatening me to protect her. The tech mogul put his headphones on, pointedly ignoring her. Furious, Victoria slammed herself down into seat 1B. Fine, she hissed. But this isn't over. Once we are in the air, I'm getting the captain. And you, she pointed a manicured finger at Maya. You better enjoy that champagne, because it's the last nice thing you're ever going to touch. Maya didn't respond. She just turned her head to look out the window at the falling snow. She felt a deep sadness in her chest. It wasn't anger she was used to, people underestimating her. But it was a sadness that people like Victoria existed, people who measured human worth by the label on a coat. The plane pushed back from the gate. The engines roared to life. Victoria spent the taxi sequence furiously typing on her phone, muttering about lawsuits and firing squads. Maya closed her eyes. She knew that once the seatbelt sign turned off, Victoria was going to escalate. And Maya would be ready. The trap was set. Victoria just had to walk into it. The seatbelt sign pinged off 10,000 feet above the Atlantic. The cabin crew immediately sprang into action, the soft clinking of china and crystal filling the first-class cabin. For the first hour of the flight, an uneasy truce hung over the aisle between seats 1A and 1B. Maya had reclined her seat slightly, her laptop open on the tray table. It was a sleek, unbranded prototype, one of the perks of owning a company that invested heavily in tech partnerships, and she was reviewing the quarterly fuel hedging reports. Victoria, meanwhile, was on her 3rd glass of Dom Perignon. The alcohol wasn't mellowing her out, it was sharpening her edges. She sat stiffly watching Maya with the predatory intensity of a hawk circling a field mouse. Every time Maya typed a sentence, Victoria huffed. Every time Maya took a sip of water, Victoria rolled her eyes. Marcus. Victoria snapped, waving her empty glass in the air without looking up from her magazine. Marcus appeared instantly, his face a mask of professional patience. Yes, Miss Vanderbilt. Another refill. Obviously, she sneered. And take this ramekin of nuts away. They are room temperature. I specifically like my cashews warmed. Is it so hard to get good help these days? I apologize, ma'am. I'll warm them for you. As Marcus reached for the dish, Victoria leaned in, lowering her voice to a stage whisper that was clearly meant to be carried across the aisle. And while you're at it, can you spray some air freshener? There is a distinct smell of poverty wafting from across the aisle. It's ruining my vintage Cabernet. Maya didn't look up from her screen, but her fingers paused on the keyboard. She took a deep breath. Let her dig, she told herself. Just let her dig. I don't smell anything, Ms. Vanderbilt, Marcus said tightly. Perhaps it's the recycled air. Don't play coy with me, Victoria hissed, glancing at Maya. Look at her. She's probably never seen the inside of a plane before, let alone first class. She's typing away on that computer like she has a job. It's adorable, really. Probably playing solitaire. Maya turned her head slowly. She removed her noise-cancelling headphones and met Victoria's gaze. "Actually," Maya said, her voice calm and articulate, "I'm reviewing the Q4 logistical spread for transatlantic cargo routes, but solitaire is fun too." Victoria blinked, caught off guard by the jargon, but she recovered quickly, her face twisting into a mocking smile. "Oh, listen to you. Using big words. Did you learn those at community college? Or did you steal that laptop and are trying to figure out how to unlock it?" The man in seat 2A, Mr. Henderson, the tech mogul, groaned audibly. "Lady, give it a rest. She's not bothering anyone." "You are." Victoria whipped around in her seat to face him. "Excuse me, I am protecting the integrity of this cabin. We pay a premium for exclusivity. If they let just anyone in here, what is the point? Next thing you know, there will be chickens in the aisle and rap music blasting. You are the only one making noise." Mr. Henderson grumbled, putting his noise-cancelling headphones back on. Victoria turned back to Maya, seething. She felt isolated, and to a narcissist like Victoria, isolation felt like an attack. She needed to win. She needed to prove that Maya was lesser. Dinner was served shortly after. The flight attendants brought out the signature dish, lobster thermidor with a side of truffle risotto. Maya ate politely, thanking the crew for every refill of water. Victoria, however, dissected her food like a coroner, looking for a cause of death. "This lobster is rubbery," Victoria announced, loudly pushing her plate away. "It's inedible. Take it back." "I'm sorry to hear that," the flight attendant said. "Would you like the filet mignon instead?" "No," Victoria said. "I want her meal." She pointed a manicured finger at Maya's half-eaten plate. The cabin went still. Maya looked at her plate, then at Victoria. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Victoria said, her eyes glittering with malice. "You clearly don't appreciate fine dining. You're eating it like it's fast food. Give me her plate. It looks like she got the only decent piece of lobster on this plane." "Ms. Vanderbilt," Marcus interjected, stepping into the aisle, his voice firm. "We cannot serve you another passenger's food. That is a health violation and frankly absurd. I can get you a fresh meal from the galley." "I don't want a fresh meal. I want what I deserve." Victoria slammed her fist on the tray table, causing her silverware to rattle. "Why is she getting better treatment than me? I am a Diamond member. Who is she? Nobody. She's a placeholder." Maya wiped her mouth with her linen napkin and placed it gently on the table. She turned to Victoria, her expression unreadable. "You know," Maya said softly, "you complain about the quality of the service, the food, and the company. But you seem to be the only miserable person here. Maybe the problem isn't the airline, Victoria. Maybe the problem is you." Victoria's mouth fell open. Her face turned a violent shade of purple. For a moment, she looked like she was going to lunge across the aisle. "You little—" Victoria sputtered, struggling for words. "You will regret speaking to me. I promise you that. By the time we land in London, you'll be in handcuffs." Maya turned back to her window, watching the moonlight reflect off the clouds. "We'll see," she whispered. Victoria didn't eat the rest of the flight. She just sat there, drinking more wine, her eyes fixed on Maya's back, plotting. The air in the cabin was thick with tension, a rubber band pulled so tight it was bound to snap. And snap it did, 3 hours later. The cabin lights had been dimmed to a soothing indigo blue. Most passengers had converted their seats into beds and were asleep. The drone of the engines was a hypnotic hum. Maya had put her laptop away and was dozing lightly, a blanket pulled up to her chin. She needed the rest. The last few weeks of board meetings had drained her. She woke up with a start. Someone was screaming. "Thief, someone help, thief!" The lights in the cabin flooded on, blindingly bright. Maya squinted, shielding her eyes. Across the aisle, Victoria was standing in the middle of her suite, tearing the cushions off her seat and throwing pillows onto the floor. "My bracelet!" Victoria shrieked. "My diamond tennis bracelet. It's gone. It's worth $50,000. Marcus and 2 other flight attendants came running from the galley. "Miss Vanderbilt, what is happening? Please lower your voice. People are sleeping." "Screw your sleep," Victoria yelled. "I went to the bathroom for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I left my bracelet on my tray table because it was scratching my wrist. When I came back, it was gone." She spun around, her wild eyes, landing instantly on Maya. "She took it," Victoria said, pointing a shaking finger. "She stole it." Maya sat up, fully awake now. "What I've been sleeping for the last 2 hours." "Liar!" Victoria lunged toward the aisle, but Marcus blocked her path. "I saw you eyeing it earlier. You were staring at my jewelry in the lounge. You've been jealous of me since the moment you saw me. You waited until I went to the lavatory and you swiped it. Miss Vanderbilt, that is a serious accusation." Marcus said, his voice grave. "Did you see Miss Sterling enter your suite?" "I didn't have to see it," Victoria screamed. "Look at her. Look at how she's dressed. Do you think she can afford to be here?" "No, she's a grifter. She probably stole the ticket and now she's stealing my diamonds." Victoria turned to the other passengers who were now waking up confused and irritated. "Check your bags. Everyone check your wallets. There is a criminal among us." Maya stood up slowly. She was calm, dangerously calm. "Victoria, I did not touch your bracelet. Check under your seat. Check your purse. I haven't left my pod." "Don't you tell me what to do," Victoria spat. "I want her searched, right now. Strip search her if you have to. I want my property back." "We cannot strip search a passenger, ma'am," Marcus said, horrified. "Then I'll do it myself." Victoria tried to push past Marcus, her hands clawing toward Maya. "Sit down," Marcus barked, using a command voice that actually made Victoria pause. "Miss Vanderbilt, if you do not sit down, I will have to restrain you. That is a federal offense." Victoria huffed, straightening her coat. "Fine. Then call the police. Have them waiting at Heathrow. And until then, I want her bag searched. That is my right. If you don't search her bag, you are an accomplice." Marcus looked at Maya, his eyes apologizing silently. "Miss Sterling, to put this to rest, would you consent to a search of your carry-on? You don't have to, but—" "It's okay, Marcus," Maya said calmly. She reached up and pulled her battered backpack from the overhead bin. She placed it on her seat. "I have nothing to hide." Victoria smirked, crossing her arms triumphantly. "Oh, we'll see about that. Dig deep. Check the lining. Rats like her are good at hiding things." Marcus opened the backpack. He pulled out a few books, a toiletry kit, a change of clothes, simple jeans and a t-shirt, and the laptop. He patted down the sides. He checked the pockets. "There is nothing here, Miss Vanderbilt," Marcus said, repacking the bag. "No jewelry." "Check her person," Victoria demanded. "It's in her pocket. It's in her bra." "That is enough." Mr. Henderson from seat 2A stood up. He was a large man, imposing. "I've been awake the whole time, lady. She hasn't moved. You, on the other hand, have been thrashing around like a maniac. Check your own damn seat." "How dare you?" Victoria started. "Actually—" Maya cut in her voice, cutting through the noise like a razor. She stepped out into the aisle. "Let's do this. Marcus, call the captain. Tell him we have a situation in first class that requires his authority, and tell him to radio Heathrow police." Victoria laughed, a high, brittle sound. "Oh, trying to bluff good. I want the captain here. I want him to see what kind of trash he's flying." "Yes." Maya said, her eyes locking onto Victoria's. "Let's get the captain, because when he gets here, Victoria, this flight is going to end very differently than you think." Marcus nodded. "I'll call the flight deck." Victoria sat back, a smug smile plastered on her face. She thought she had won. She thought Maya was trying to scare her off. She didn't realize that by demanding the captain, she had just summoned the only person on the plane who answered directly to Maya Sterling. As they waited, Victoria leaned over. "You can drop the act," she whispered. "Just give it back, and maybe I won't press charges. I know you need the money. It must be hard seeing people like me live lives you can only dream of." Maya looked at her, not with anger, but with pity. "Victoria, the only thing I'm going to take from you is your pride." The curtain at the front of the cabin parted. The captain emerged. He was a silver-haired man with 4 gold stripes on his shoulders and a look of stern authority. "What is the problem here?" Captain O'Malley asked, his voice booming. Victoria shot up from her seat. "Captain, thank God. This woman," she pointed at Maya, "stole my $50,000 diamond bracelet. I want her arrested." Captain O'Malley frowned. He looked at Victoria, then he looked at Maya. His eyes widened slightly as he recognized the young woman in the hoodie. He opened his mouth to speak, to say, "Ms. Sterling." But Maya held up a hand, stopping him. She wasn't done yet. She wanted the trap to snap shut completely. "Captain," Maya said, her voice changing, dropping the soft tone and adopting the sharp, commanding cadence of a boardroom executive. "This passenger is accusing me of a felony. She has disrupted the flight, harassed the crew, and verbally assaulted another passenger. I would like you to follow protocol for a level 2 disturbance." Victoria laughed. Listen to her giving orders. "Captain, arrest this girl." Captain O'Malley didn't look at Victoria. He looked at Maya, standing straight in her sweatpants, radiating power. "Ms. Vanderbilt," the captain said slowly, turning to the irate woman, "you are accusing this passenger of theft. Yes, I know she has it. And you are absolutely certain, 100%. "Very well," the captain said. He turned to Marcus. "Marcus, turn the cabin lights to full bright. We are going to do a sweep of Ms. Vanderbilt's suite. If the bracelet is not found, we will have to make an emergency landing in Dublin to handle a theft in international airspace. Is that what you want, Miss Vanderbilt?" "Yes," Victoria cried. "Land the plane. I don't care. I want justice." "Okay," Maya said. "Marcus, tear 1B apart." Marcus stepped into Victoria's suite. He lifted the cushion she had been sitting on. He checked the floor. Then he reached into the side pocket of the seat, the one meant for magazines. He paused. Slowly, Marcus pulled his hand out. Dangling from his fingers was a glittering diamond tennis bracelet. "Is this it?" Marcus asked. The cabin went deadly silent. Victoria froze. She stared at the bracelet. I checked there. I checked." "It was wedged in the literature pocket," Marcus said coldly. "You didn't lose it. You misplaced it. Or perhaps," he raised an eyebrow, "you hid it there to frame someone." "I didn't," Victoria stammered, her face losing all color. It must have slipped." "You demanded an emergency landing," Mr. Henderson shouted from behind. "You accused that girl of a felony because you can't keep track of your jewelry." "It was a mistake," Victoria yelled. "Fine, I found it. Happy now, go away." She snatched the bracelet from Marcus and sat down, trying to dismiss the captain of the aircraft. "Service is over. Leave me alone." "I'm afraid it's not that simple," Maya said. Maya stepped forward, blocking Victoria into her seat. "You accused me of a crime," Maya said. "You demanded I be strip-searched. You humiliated the staff. And now you think you can just say, 'Oops,' and go back to drinking your wine? I said I was sorry." Victoria rolled her eyes. What do you want money here?" She reached into her purse and pulled out a $100 bill. She threw it at Maya. It fluttered to the floor. "Buy yourself a new hoodie. Now get out of my face." Maya looked at the money on the floor. Then she looked at Captain O'Malley. "Captain," Maya said. "I think it's time." Captain O'Malley nodded. He stood at attention, facing Maya. "Yes, ma'am. How do you want to proceed?" Victoria frowned, looking between them. "Ma'am. Why are you calling her Ma'am?" Maya reached into her back pocket. She didn't pull out a weapon. She pulled out a thin black titanium ID card with a holographic chip. She clipped it onto her hoodie. It read, "Maya Sterling, owner and CEO, Aurora Airlines." Victoria squinted at the badge. She read it once, then twice. The blood drained from her face so fast she looked like a corpse. "No," Victoria whispered. That's fake." "Captain O'Malley," Maya said, her voice ringing with authority. "Who signs your paychecks?" "You do, Ms. Sterling," the captain replied loud and clear. "And who owns this aircraft? The Sterling family, ma'am. Specifically, you." Maya turned back to Victoria. The silence in the cabin was heavy, suffocating, and delicious. "You told me I didn't belong in seat 1A, Maya said, leaning down so she was nose to nose with the terrified woman. "Victoria, I own seat 1A. I own seat 1B. I own the seat you're sitting in, the champagne you're drinking, and the plane we are flying in. I am Aurora Airlines." Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I didn't know. I thought—" "You thought I was poor," Maya finished for her. "And because you thought I was poor, you thought I was trash. You thought you could abuse me, frame me, and discard me." Maya stood up straight and looked at Marcus. Marcus cut her off. No more alcohol, and revoke her diamond medallion status immediately. I want her banned from Aurora Airlines for life, effective the moment we touch down. "You can't do that," Victoria shrieked, panic setting in. "I'm a Vanderbilt. My husband—" "Your husband," Maya interrupted, "does business with my company. I'll be giving him a call personally to explain why his wife is now on the no-fly list. I wonder how he'll feel about you costing him his corporate discount." Victoria slumped back in her seat, defeated, humiliated, and utterly destroyed. "But we aren't done yet," Maya said. "Captain, I don't feel safe flying with this passenger. She is unstable and has attempted to frame me for a crime. I want her removed." "We are over the ocean, ma'am," the captain said, suppressing a smile. "We can't remove her until London." "Actually," Maya said, glancing at the flight map on the screen, "we are passing near Iceland, and I believe we have a technical stop for fuel in Reykjavik if the owner mandates it." Victoria's eyes bulged. "You wouldn't?" Maya smiled a cold, hard smile. "I have the money. I have the time. Captain, divert the plane to Reykjavik. Let's drop off the trash." The announcement from the flight deck crackled over the PA system, cutting through the murmurs of the stunned passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain O'Malley speaking. We have a situation on board that requires the immediate removal of a disruptive passenger. As such, we are diverting to Keflavik International Airport in Reykjavik, Iceland. We will be on the ground in approximately 30 minutes. We apologize for the delay in your arrival to London, but the safety and comfort of our owners and guests are our top priority." The plane banked sharply to the left. The engines whined as the thrust reduced, and the nose of the massive Boeing 777 dipped toward the dark, icy waters of the North Atlantic. Victoria sat frozen in seat 1B. Her face was a mask of pure terror. She looked out the window, seeing nothing but pitch blackness. "You can't be serious," she whispered, her voice trembling. She turned to Maya. "Iceland, you're landing in Iceland. It's the middle of the night. It's freezing." Maya didn't even look up. She had reopened her journal and was calmly writing an entry. "You should have thought about that before you tried to frame me for a felony, Victoria." Maya said, her pen scratching against the paper. But it's Christmas Eve," Victoria pleaded. Tears were now streaming down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. "I have a connection in London. My family is waiting for me in Gstad." "You can't leave me in Iceland." "I can, and I am," Maya replied coolly. Victoria unbuckled her seatbelt and scrambled into the aisle, dropping to her knees beside Maya's seat. It was a pathetic sight. The woman who had been screaming about her superiority an hour ago was now begging at the feet of the woman she had called a street urchin. "Please!" Victoria sobbed, grabbing the armrest of Maya's suite. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was stressed. I was drunk. I'll pay you. I'll give you $10,000. Just tell the captain to turn around." Maya stopped writing. She turned her head and looked down at Victoria. Her eyes were not angry. They were devoid of any sympathy. It was the look of a judge delivering a final sentence. "Marcus," Maya called out softly. The chief purser appeared instantly. "Yes, Ms. Sterling." "Please remove this woman's hands from my suite. She is soiling the leather." Marcus stepped forward. "Ms. Vanderbilt, please return to your seat for landing. The Icelandic authorities have been notified and are meeting the aircraft." "Authorities!" Victoria shrieked as Marcus firmly guided her back to seat 1B. "You called the police over a misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding," Mr. Henderson called out from seat 2A. "It was a hate crime, lady. Enjoy the snow." The descent was rough. The winds over Iceland were howling, shaking the plane violently. Every bump made Victoria gasp. She clutched her armrests, her knuckles white. She looked around the cabin for sympathy, but she found none. The actress in 2K was filming her with a phone. The businessman in 3A was cheering. Victoria Vanderbilt, the woman who thought the world revolved around her, was realizing she had just spun out of orbit. The wheels touched down on the icy tarmac with a heavy thud. The reverse thrusters roared, slowing the beast of a plane down. As the aircraft taxied off the main runway toward a remote stand, far away from the terminal, blue and red lights flickered in the distance. They weren't taxiing to a gate. They were stopping in the middle of the airfield. "Why are we stopping here?" Victoria whimpered. "Where is the jet bridge?" "No jet bridge for you, Victoria," Maya said, closing her journal and packing it away. "VIP treatment is over. You're getting the stairs." The sensation was immediate and violent as the heavy cabin door of the Boeing 711 swung open. The controlled, perfumed atmosphere of the first-class cabin was instantly shattered. A blast of sub-zero Arctic air roared inside, carrying with it the biting scent of jet fuel and the howling sound of the Icelandic wind. It was a physical assault, a reminder that outside this aluminum tube, nature was brutal and unforgiving. Victoria Vanderbilt shivered, pulling her white cashmere coat tighter around her throat. But the cold wasn't the only thing entering the plane. 2 officers from the Lögreglan, the Icelandic police, stepped across the threshold. They were mountain-sized men, their dark blue uniforms dusted with fresh snow, their faces grim and set in expressions of absolute zero tolerance. They didn't look like the polite airport security Victoria was used to bullying in New York. They looked like Vikings. Captain O'Malley stood by the cockpit door, his arms crossed. He didn't say a word. He simply nodded toward seat 1B. The lead officer, whose badge read Officer Gunnarsson, marched down the aisle. His heavy boots made a wet, thudding sound on the plush carpet, a jarring rhythm that silenced the entire cabin. He stopped directly in front of Victoria. "Victoria Vanderbilt." His voice was deep heavily accented, and echoed with authority. Victoria shrank back into the soft leather of her suite, clutching her purse as if it were a shield. I demand to speak to the American ambassador." She stammered, her voice trembling, but still laced with entitlement. "This is a kidnapping. You have no jurisdiction here. This is an American plane." "We are on Icelandic soil, madam," Officer Gunnarsson said, his voice flat. "And you have been identified as a threat to the safety of this aircraft. You are being removed. Now." "I am not a threat," Victoria shrieked, looking around wildly for an ally. "I am a victim, that woman." She pointed a shaking finger at Maya. "She is the one you want. She's the criminal. She hijacked this plane." Maya didn't even flinch. She sat perfectly still in seat 1A, her hands folded over her journal, watching the scene unfold with the dispassionate gaze of a judge. "Stand up," the second officer commanded, stepping forward. He unclipped a pair of heavy-duty zip ties from his belt. The sound of the plastic rattling sent a jolt of panic through the cabin. "No, you can't touch me," Victoria yelled. She grabbed the armrests of her seat, digging her nails into the expensive leather. "I paid $5,000 for this seat. I am not moving until we reach London. Do you know who my husband is? He's Richard Vanderbilt. He will buy your entire police department and fire all of you." "In Iceland we cannot be bought," Gunnarsson said coldly. He reached down his large, gloved hand, clamping onto Victoria's upper arm like a vice. With a single fluid motion, he hoisted her out of the seat. Victoria flailed her legs, kicking uselessly in the air, her expensive Italian heels scuffing the partition. "Help me!" she screamed, turning her desperate gaze to Mr. Henderson in seat 2A. "Please, you're a man of status. Don't let them do this to one of us. Help me!" Mr. Henderson slowly lowered his noise-cancelling headphones. He looked at Victoria, then at the police, and finally he looked at Maya. He picked up his glass of scotch, took a slow sip, and said, "Lady, you aren't one of us. You're a nightmare. Get off the plane." The rejection hit Victoria harder than the police officer's grip. She looked at the famous actress in seat 2K, but the woman was holding up her phone, recording every second of the meltdown, a slight smirk playing on her lips. Realizing she had no allies, Victoria turned her fury back to the source. As the officers dragged her toward the open door, she dug her heels into the carpet, forcing them to pause right next to Maya's suite. Victoria's hair was a mess, her face was blotchy with tears and rage, and her composure was utterly destroyed. She leaned over, spitting her words at the young woman in the hoodie. "You think you've won?" Victoria hissed, her voice cracking. "You think this is funny? I will sue you for every penny you have. I will ruin this airline. I will make sure you never work in this industry again." Maya slowly unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. Even in her sweatpants, she loomed over the disheveled socialite. She leaned in close so only Victoria could hear her over the wind howling at the door. "Victoria," Maya said softly, her voice calm and terrifyingly steady. "You can't sue me for removing a passenger who filed a false police report. And you can't ruin this airline because this airline is built on respect, something you know nothing about. Enjoy Iceland. I hear the northern lights are beautiful from a jail cell." Victoria started to scream, but Officer Gunnarsson had had enough. "That is enough!" the officer barked. He yanked her toward the door. The transition from the cabin to the outside was brutal. They stepped onto the mobile metal staircase that had been rolled up to the plane. There was no covered jet bridge here. Just open-air darkness and a blizzard. The wind hit Victoria like a physical blow, nearly knocking her off her feet. It whipped her perfectly styled blonde hair into a frenzy, plastering it across her face. The snow was falling hard, thick, wet flakes that instantly soaked into her cashmere coat. "Move," the officer ordered, nudging her down the metal steps. Victoria looked down. The stairs were covered in a thin layer of rime ice. She took a step, her high heel skidded on the metal grate, and she let out a shriek as she slipped. She grabbed the freezing cold handrail with her bare hands to stop herself from tumbling down. "My coat! It's getting wet!" She wailed, her voice snatched away by the gale. From the warmth of the cabin, the passengers watched through the windows. It was like watching a silent movie. They saw Victoria Vanderbilt, the woman who had terrorized a 19-year-old barista and tried to frame a CEO struggling down the icy stairs like a newborn deer. Halfway down, a gust of wind caught her wide-brimmed designer hat, the one she had worn with such smug superiority in the lounge. It ripped from her head and tumbled away across the dark tarmac, disappearing into the snowstorm. Victoria reached for it, almost falling again, but the officer pulled her upright. "Leave it," the officer said. "Get in the van." At the bottom of the stairs there was no limousine. There was no warm town car. There was only a boxy utilitarian police van with its blue lights flashing rhythmically against the snow. The back doors were open, revealing a cramped metal cage. Victoria stopped at the bottom of the stairs, her feet submerged in slush. She looked up at the massive airplane one last time. She could see the warm glow of the windows. She could see the silhouette of Maya Sterling, standing in the window of seat 1A, watching her. For the first time in her life, Victoria Vanderbilt realized she was on the outside, looking in. The world she thought she owned had just evicted her. The officers didn't wait for her epiphany. They guided her firmly to the van. "Watch your head," the officer said, not unkindly but without sympathy. He guided her into the back. Victoria scrambled inside, shivering violently, her teeth chattering so hard it hurt. The officer slammed the door shut. The sound echoed across the tarmac, a heavy metallic thud that signaled the end of her reign of terror. Inside the plane, the crew worked quickly. Marcus and a flight attendant stepped to the door, grabbed the handle and pulled it shut. The latch clicked. The wind stopped howling. The cold was instantly replaced by the gentle hum of the heating system. The silence that followed was heavy, but it wasn't tense anymore. It was the silence of relief. It was the feeling of a fever breaking. Mr. Henderson let out a long, loud exhale. "Good riddance." "Is she gone?" a soft voice asked. It was the young flight attendant who had been serving the meal earlier, the one Victoria had yelled at about the lobster. "She is gone," Maya said, turning away from the window. She looked at her crew, then at her passengers. "And she won't be coming back." Maya sat back down, but she didn't look tired anymore. She looked energized. She pressed the call button. "Marcus." "Yes, Ms. Sterling." Marcus appeared looking 10 years younger, now that the source of his stress was in the back of a police van. "Tell the captain to get the de-icing trucks out here immediately. I want the wings sprayed, and this plane in the air in 20 minutes. We have a schedule to keep." Maya paused, a mischievous smile touching her lips. And Marcus opened the 1998 vintage champagne, a round for everyone in first class, and send a round of drinks and extra desserts to economy. "Tell them it's a Christmas gift from the owner." "Right away, ma'am." Outside, the orange strobe lights of the de-icing trucks illuminated the night, spraying hot glycol over the wings, washing away the ice. It was a perfect metaphor. The toxicity was being washed away, leaving the vessel clean, strong, and ready to fly. As the police van drove away into the Icelandic darkness, fading until its tail lights were just tiny red pinpricks in the storm, Maya raised her glass to the window. "Justice," she whispered, taking a sip. "Served cold." The rest of the flight to London was a dream. The crew treated Maya like royalty, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. She had stood up for Leo in the lounge, and she had stood up for dignity in the air. News of what happened spread to the economy cabin, and by the time they landed at Heathrow, Maya Sterling was a legend among the crew. As the plane descended over the twinkling lights of London, Maya looked at her reflection in the dark window. She looked tired, yes. Her hoodie was still frayed, but her eyes were bright. She wasn't just the daughter of the founder anymore. She was the CEO. She tapped her pen on her journal one last time. She wrote, "Dad, you were right. Respect is earned, not bought." Victoria Vanderbilt spent her Christmas in a holding cell in Keflavik, waiting for her husband to wire bail money. When she finally got back to New York 3 days later, she found that her husband had seen the viral video recorded by the actress in Seat 2K. The video was titled, "Billionaire Karen Gets Owned by Secret CEO." It had 50 million views. Her husband filed for divorce the next morning. Victoria lost her status, her reputation, and her diamond medallion card. Maya, on the other hand, spent Christmas morning at her father's grave, placing a single white rose on the headstone. She whispered a quiet "thank you," turned up the collar of her hoodie, and walked back toward her car, ready to lead her company into the new year. Can you believe the audacity of Victoria? She really thought her money gave her the right to treat a human being like garbage. But she learned the hard way that you never judge a book by its cover or a CEO by her hoodie. If you enjoyed seeing that instant karma, hit back. Hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were Maya? Would you have kicked her off sooner? Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. We post new dramas every single day. Thanks for watching, and remember, be kind, because you never know who you're talking to.